There's been a series of explosions near the Syrian capital, Damascus. Syrian state television is reporting that Israeli rockets have struck a scientific research centre. The centre at n.d.a.a was the target of an Israeli strike back in January. Residents have reported huge explosions on the edge of the city. If confirmed, it would be the second Israeli attack on Syria in 3 days. Well, our correspondent Yolande Nell is in Jerusalem. Yolande, any word from Israel about the claims coming from Syria?
Well, the most that we've had so far is confirmation from unnamed senior security officials talking to the Israeli media, saying that indeed Israel was behind these latest attacks. But there's been nothing from the government itself. The Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, simply speaking earlier at a ceremony, talking in quite pointed remarks about Israel's need to protect itself and to guarantee its future. Now, I have to say, Israel has repeatedly said that it doesn't want to get involved in this bloody civil war that's taking place in neighbouring Syria. But what it has also said is that it will act at the same time if it looks like sophisticated weaponry or chemical weapons are falling into the hands of Hezbollah, its sworn enemy, the Lebanese militant group, of course, or into the hands of other extremist groups like Al-Qaeda, said to be fighting alongside the rebels in Syria. And from what security officials are saying unofficially, this is what appears to have happened in this case. The targets, as you say, n.d.a.a, the latest one, this big military and scientific research centre just outside Damascus, and we've seen amateur footage from there, apparently from there anyway, showing the nighttime sky lit up by these large explosions. Previously, the reports that we've heard are that also shipments of Iranian-made high-precision surface-to-surface missiles have been attacked by the Israelis. These are shipments that it believed were falling into the hands of Hezbollah.
Yes, because there's been a lot of focus in recent weeks on chemical weapons, but the focus of these attacks appears to be conventional weapons.
That's correct. I mean, as the West has been concentrating on its red line, chemical weapons being used by President Assad of Syria against his own people, Israel has clearly set its own red line. It's very aware of the dangers of high-precision weaponry being placed in the hands of its enemies. Hezbollah, of course, it fought a month-long war with that militant group back in 2006. If it was to have, as is apparently believed, these Fatah 110 high-precision Iranian-made missiles, then that, analysts are saying, would be a game-changer. It would enable Hezbollah in any future conflict to reach big commercial centres with precision inside Israel, such as Tel Aviv. Now, obviously, just another point at the moment, Israel is extremely worried about some kind of retaliation from Hezbollah, with Syrian state media coming out very firmly pointing the finger at Israel for this latest attack. And we've heard from military officials here that 2 batteries of Israel's Iron Dome missile defense system are now being sent up near Haifa in the north of the country, close to the Lebanese border, perhaps in anticipation of any rocket attacks, it seems. And also we know that the Prime Minister here has delayed his scheduled trip to China for a few hours and is going to be meeting shortly with the senior military and intelligence officials here.
Yolande Nell in Jerusalem, thank you very much. Well, let's return to our top story and get an update now on those huge explosions in Syria, just outside Damascus. We can speak to our Middle East correspondent Jim Muir, who's in neighbouring Lebanon. And Jim, from eyewitness accounts, from reports on state television in Syria, what picture are you getting of what's happened?
Well, it does seem that a number of targets were hit, and there was certainly at least one very huge explosion, which presumably means some kind of either ammunition dump or perhaps a collection of missiles was hit and exploded as a result of the impact of one of these Israeli missiles. Now, interestingly, Hezbollah, its television station here in Lebanon, Al-Manar, and it is allied to the Syrians, is basically saying that the n.d.a.a research center, which the Syrian regime has said was the target, was not in fact hit, but other things such as some military barracks, air defense unit and military depots, military distribution centers, were hit, that would be a little bit surprising, because the Israelis have always said they would only intervene to stop missiles or other advanced weapons being handed to Hezbollah, not to get embroiled in the Syrian conflict. But if they're hitting what you might call routine domestic Syrian military targets, that would be a different thing altogether, and a very dangerous development, one that starts to look like involvement rather than a very targeted intervention for a very specific reason.
The Israelis hit Jamraya, didn't they, what, in January? Were there pictures out of that from that incident, and would we expect to see pictures on this occasion?
Well, yes, it took them about 3 days to produce the pictures from Jamraya, although it's only a short distance from Damascus. There was a delay, but they did eventually put out pictures showing that the main kind of epicenter of the attack was in fact the parking lot alongside the complex, and that it seems that military vehicles, including rocket launchers, were hit there. This time, I suppose, eventually they might get around to showing us pictures, but nothing from the state broadcasters so far.
OK, Jim Muir in Beirut, thanks very much.